Hello, and thank you for joining me today. I want to share with you the 50-cent lesson in persistence from Think and Grow Rich. It's one that I think we can all gain some insight from. And every time you read it or every time you listen to this, something else is it's going to, like mean something. It's going to pop up. And all of a sudden you're going to go, wow, how come I never saw that before? Well, the words haven't changed. They're the same, but you've changed. You've changed. So here's the story, and written so beautifully by Napoleon Hill in Think and Grow Rich. Shortly after Mr. Darby received his degree from the University of Hard Knocks and had decided to profit by his experience in the gold mining business, he had the good fortune to be present on an occasion that proved to him that no does not necessarily mean no. One afternoon, he was helping his uncle grind wheat in an old-fashioned mill. The uncle operated a large farm on which a number of colored sharecrop farmers lived. Quietly, the door was opened, and a small colored child, the daughter of a tenant, walked in and took her place near the door. The uncle looked up, saw the child, and barked at her roughly. "What do you want?" Meekly, the child replied, "My mommy say send her 50 cents. "I'll not do it," the uncle retorted. "Now you run on home." "Yes, sir," the child replied, but she didn't move. The uncle went ahead with his work, so busily engaged that he didn't pay enough attention to the child to observe that she did not leave. When he looked up and saw her still standing there, he yelled at her, "I told you to go on home. Now go, or I'll take a switch to you." The little girl said, "Yes, sir," but she did not budge. The uncle dropped a sack of grain he was about to pour into the mill hopper, picked up a barrel stave, and started toward the child with an expression on his face that indicated trouble. Darby held his breath. He was certain he was about to witness a murder. He knew his uncle had a fierce temper. He knew that colored children were not supposed to defy white people in that part of the country. When the uncle reached the spot where the child was, she quickly stepped forward one step, looked up into his eyes, and screamed at the top of her shrill voice, "My mammy's got to have that 50 cents. The uncle stopped, looked at her for a minute, then slowly laid his barrel stave on the floor, put his hand in his pocket, and took out a $50. And he gave it to her. The child took the money and slowly backed towards the door, never taking her eyes off the man whom she had just conquered. After she had gone, the uncle sat down on a box and looked out the window into space for more than 10 minutes. He was pondering with awe over the whipping he had just taken. Mr. Darby, too, was doing some thinking. That was the first time in all his experience that he had ever seen a colored child deliberately master an adult white person. How did she do it? What happened to his uncle that caused him to lose his fierceness and become docile as a little lamb? What strange power did this child use that made her master over her superior? These and other similar questions flashed into Darby's mind, but he did not find the answer until years later when he told me the story. Strangely, the story of this unusual experience was told to the author of this old mill of, sorry, strangely, this story of this unusual experience was told to the author in this old mill on the very spot where his uncle took his whipping. Strangely, too, I had devoted nearly a quarter of a century to the study of the power which enabled an ignorant, illiterate colored child to conquer an intelligent man. As we stood there in the musty old mill, Mr. Darby repeated the story of the unusual conquest and finished by asking, "What can you make of it? What strange power did that child use that completely whipped my uncle?" The answer to this question will be found in the principles described in this book. The answer is full and complete. It contains details and instructions sufficient to enable anyone to understand and apply the same fierce, the answer is full and complete. It contains details and instructions sufficient to enable anyone to understand and apply the same force which this little child accidentally stumbled upon. Keep your mind alert and you will observe exactly what strange power came to the rescue of the child. You will catch a glimpse of this power in the next chapter. Somewhere in the book, you will find an idea that will quicken your receptive powers and place at your command for your own benefit this same irresistible power. The awareness of this power may come to you in the first chapter, or it may flash into your mind in some subsequent chapter. It may come in the form of a single idea, or it may come in the nature of a plan or a purpose. Again, it may cause you to go back into your past experiences of failure or defeat and bring to the surface some lesson by which you can regain all that you lost through defeat. After I had described to Mr. Darby the power unwittingly used by the little colored child, he quickly retraced his 30 years of experience as a life insurance salesman and frankly acknowledged that his success in that field was due in no small degree to the lesson he had learned from the child. Mr. Darby pointed out every time a prospect tried to bow out. Pause. Mr. Darby pointed out every time a prospect tried to bow me out without bowing, I saw that child standing there in the old mill, her big glaring eyes in defiance. And I said to myself, I've got to make this sale. The better portion of all sales I have made were made after the people said no. He recalled too his mistake in having stopped only 3 feet from gold. But he said that experience was a blessing in disguise. It taught me to keep on keeping on, no matter how hard the going may be. A lesson I needed to learn before I would succeed in anything. This story of Mr. Darby and his uncle, the colored child, and the gold mine doubtless will be read by many hundreds of men who make their living by selling life insurance. And to all of these, the author wishes to offer suggestion that Darby owes to those two experiences: his ability to sell more than $1 million of life insurance every year. Life is strange and often imponderable. Both the successes and the failures have their roots in simple experiences. Mr. Darby's experiences were commonplace and simple enough, yet they hold the answer to his destiny in life. Therefore, they were as important to him as life itself. He profited by these two dramatic experiences because he analyzed them and found the lesson they taught. But what if the man who has neither the time nor the inclination to study failure in search of knowledge that may lead to success? Where and how is he to learn the art of converting defeat into stepping stones to opportunity? In answer to these questions, this book was written. The answer called for a description of 13 principles, but remember, as you read, the answer you may be seeking to the questions which have caused you to ponder over the strangest of life may be found in your mind through some idea, through some plan, or some purpose, which may spring into your mind as you read. One sound idea is all that one needs to achieve success. Think and grow rich. Until next time, this is Jan Payne empowering you to attract incredible possibilities.